All right, Larry Krueger here from the Krug Show down in Santa Clara, but we're going to do a little San Francisco Giants video as I was listening to Susan Slusser talk to our good friend John Lund and Greg Papa on KMBR driving down. Let's talk a little bit first about Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. Pig in a Pickle from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig in a Pickle is the best barbecue you're going to find in all of Northern California. And also thanks to Underdog Fantasy for being the sponsor of this video. Check that link in the description. Use Underdog Fantasy and make sure you type in the promo code KRUG, K-R-U-E-G, and they will match you up to your first $100. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Giants, who just, this week signed a free agent. Jung-Hoo Lee gets a 6-year deal for $113 million. And, I said yesterday I don't love the signing for lots of reasons. I think it's a dramatic overpay. I think $19 million a year for a slap hitter from the KBO is where there's some questions about his ankle, some questions about the year he had, some questions about whether he can hit major league pitching, whether he's going to have to adapt his swing, and then there's durability concerns and all the rest. Is he a true center fielder? There's lots of concerns. So I'm not a huge fan of the Jung-Hoo Lee signing, but it was interesting to see that, according to Susan Slusser, the Giants aren't done, and they're not anywhere close to done. She said that they still could be players they could be still in on Cody Bellinger. To what degree? It's all speculative at this point, but Bellinger can play first base. He can play center field, and there's a chance that they'll be in on Bellinger still. Rhys Hoskins could as a first baseman that they could be in on. Hoskins, it sounds like, would very much love to play for the Giants. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, it sounds like he's probably either going to the Dodgers or the Yankees, but the Giants probably are still in on Yamamoto as well. They met with him recently. They would love to have him come to the Giants. And then she mentioned guys like Blake Snell as well. Snell pitched for Bob Melvin, so maybe there's a connection there, and maybe the Giants, if they lose out on Yamamoto, could sign Blake Snell. And she also, as I said, mentioned Matt Chapman at third base. So it doesn't sound like the Giants are done. If they're going to add to Jung-Hoo Lee, Cody Bellinger or Rhys Hoskins, Matt Chapman, Blake Snell, they're still shopping at the big money aisle, and it makes sense. There's also reports that the Giants offered Shohei Ohtani the identical deal that he got from the Dodgers, which means that they were willing to shell out $700 million. And, they gave up $113 million here, so that means they've got quite a bit of money left to go out and spend in the free agent market. Now, are they going to land Yamamoto? I don't know. Are they going to land a guy like Cody Bellinger? I'm not really sure. The question is, if it came right down to it, who would they want? Who's a priority? Susan made it seem like, hey, they're going to lean on defense, pitching and defense. But, Cody Bellinger could really help you defensively in center field. He could also help you probably defensively at first base. Matt Chapman is maybe one of the best defensive third basemen that I've ever seen. I really like Casey Schmidt, and I think if I were the Giants, I'd rather go with Casey Schmidt and take care of first base with like a Rhys Hoskins or a Cody Bellinger. But it sounds very much like Chapman is in the mix for the Giants. And then Snell was as good a pitcher as there was in the majors this year, and he's not going to cost you as much as Yamamoto. Yamamoto's box office, that's the one thing. The one thing about Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto is they're true box office type players. They're the kinds of players that people were going to buy tickets to see. I don't know if that's the case with Blake Snell. But to me, my experience in San Francisco and in this town has been just that, Giants fans will support a winner. And if they win with Blake Snell, people will come out and watch. And, if they don't win with Yamamoto, they'll come and watch him early. But as the season progresses, less and less people will come out. So it's really much more about being competitive than it is about having that draw. But Ohtani's box office and Yamamoto's box office. Now, it is interesting that the Dodgers are supposedly meeting with Yamamoto, or have in the last 24 hours, and their meeting included Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani. So I got to think that Ohtani is probably going to carry quite a bit of weight with Yamamoto, and Ohtani's an icon. And if he says, "Hey, come to the Dodgers," I would imagine Yamamoto going to the Dodgers is very, very, I don't want to say it's likely, but it's definitely viable as an option. So I think we ought to just all prepare ourselves for the fact that Yamamoto very much could be joining Shohei Ohtani. But, Blake Snell would be a really nice alternative. Very consistent pitcher. Melvin knows him. He could be a top-tier guy right there with Logan Webb at the top of the Giants' rotation. As far as people asking me, why are you critical of the Jung-Hoo Lee signing? It just seems like a lot of money for a guy that I think is probably going to hit about 275, 280 with maybe 10 home runs and maybe 10 stolen bases and play a good center field but not have a great arm out there. For $113 million for almost $19 million a year, that just seems like a dramatic overpay to me. The other concern I have really is the level of play that he's played at. The KBO is not professional baseball in Japan. Some people think it's the equivalent of the Cal League, like high A ball. Other people think it's like the equivalent of Double A. Just to put it in perspective, Darren Ruff, the former Giant, played 3 years in the KBO. In the KBO, he averaged .313 average, .404 on base, 28 home runs, and 117 RBIs. But in the big leagues in 9 seasons, he's at his combined average is .239. So not .313. And his on-base percentage was .329, not .404. And he didn't hit 28 home runs. His home run, the highest season he's ever had for home runs is 16. And the most RBIs he's ever driven in is 43, not 117. So, I mean, the KBO, just because you do it in the KBO really doesn't mean that you're going to do it in the big leagues. And the other one that really comes to mind is that the MVP of the KBO this last year was Eric Fedde. Eric Fedde is a 30-year-old pitcher whose career Major League Baseball ERA is 5.41. And Fedde in the KBO this year went 20-6 with a 2.00 ERA. So, I've heard people compare Jung-Hoo Lee to Ichiro. Ichiro played in Japan. Ichiro was like a 7-time All-Star and like a 5-time batting champion when he came over. He played at a higher level, and he was much more accomplished. So I don't think that's a fair comparison, nor one that we should stick on Jung-Hoo Lee. But when you look at Eric Fedde, I mean, he had a 5.41 ERA in the bigs, and he had a 2.0 ERA and was went 20-6 in the KBO. So, I mean, it's a different level. It's a different level, and it's a bit of a projection. I'll just leave it at that. And then the other thing I want to hit on in this video is that, it's come out in the last couple of days. Buster Posey spoke on this, that the Giant free agent pursuits are being hurt by the city of San Francisco. And that, Ken Rosenthal put out a video saying, hey, the Giants have a city problem. And ultimately, it's the wives that typically make the call on where you're going to go. And if they don't make the call 100%, they make their opinion known. And San Francisco has been used as a political football in the last year as a signature failing of the current administration. And, it's a right-wing talking point that San Francisco has eroded. And whether it's true or perceived, it really doesn't matter because it's being sold that way nationwide. And people see the images. And if you're in Nashville, Tennessee, and you're thinking about where are we going to play ball, and you can choose cities, and you're looking at San Francisco with feces and needles and all the upheaval, and this is whether it's true, whether it's exaggerated, or whether it's false. That's the perception that's getting sold to the wives of many big leaguers, and it's become a reality. And so it has no fault of the Giants. It has nothing to do with the Giants. And it's San Francisco needs new leadership, and they have lots and lots of problems. This is, the problems of San Francisco have been used a lot, and the images have been dispersed so frequently and so aggressively that it's become a reality. And as far as the mindset of Major League Baseball wives, and if they have a say in where their husband plays, they're going to say, I'd rather play somewhere else. So I feel bad for Farhan, and I feel bad for the Giants, because the Giants have done nothing to add to this problem. And if anything, the creation of their ballpark has made that area along the waterfront, that's the bright spot. That's the that's what's lifted up the neighborhood. The Giants have done a huge part to lift up the South of Market area and revitalize it with the presence of that ballpark. As a native San Franciscan, I can remember when South of Market was pretty desolate and pretty slummy and pretty empty and not that great, and it's been completely revitalized with the creation of that ballpark and the neighborhood that's built up around it. So but it is interesting that has become a reality for the Giants. And will they be able to sign free agents? They're probably going to have to pay. There's going to be free agents that just don't want to play for them at any price, and so that's kind of out of their, they can be more competitive. They can be more competitive on the field. They can, win games and make themselves more of an attractive destination to prospective free agents. But the San Francisco drag on their free agent pursuits that was mentioned by Buster is not a flimsy, bogus excuse. It's Buster being very candid and upfront and real about the current conditions in the city and how it impacts the Giants' business and their pursuit of free agents. So it's a reality, and I'm glad Buster talked about it, because it's the Giants deserve some of the blame for overpromising and underdelivering when it comes to their transactions in recent years. Farhan's not done a good job of sales, which is to underpromise and overdeliver. He's done the opposite way too many times. But this reality has nothing to do with the Giants and needs to be spoken and needs to be mentioned, because I think the fans need to at least be cognizant of the fact that it's not just this is all on Farhan. It's not just this is all on the Giants. They screwed it up. Their pursuits and their free agent recruiting has become exponentially more difficult by the image of San Francisco and how that image is being spread to the rest of the nation. All right, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks to Pig in a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Check that link in the description. Use the promo code KRUG, and they will save you up to your first $100, or they'll match you up to your first $100. And thanks to all you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.